Diamond V Sport presents the American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade. Just a short drive on I-70 outside of Denver, Colorado, is an area known as Red Rocks Country, a name which very accurately describes the beautiful terrain so typical of Colorado. Here, near Morrison, is found a mountain with a dual personality. On one side is the famed Red Rocks Amphitheater, built by the Civilian Conservation Corps in 1936. It is said to have the finest outdoor acoustics anywhere. Now, climb to the top of Red Rocks, look down, and you'll find another stage where the music comes from 4,000 horsepower nitro-burning drag racing machines. This is the all-new Bandimere Speedway.
Hello everyone, I'm Steve Evans, and today from this fantastic facility, we bring you the final rounds of the NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals. Now, as always in NHRA Championship drag racing, the qualifying days furnish some tremendous excitement, but on this occasion, also some high drama and a bit of heroism.
It was veteran Don Prudhomme in the far lane against Nitro newcomer Don Gay in the near lane. As they left the line, both cars smoked the tires, but Don Gay stayed in it. The car veered violently left and hit the wall hard enough to knock Gay unconscious. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, a fire started under the body and began to burn uncontrollably. Sheer momentum propelled the car into the other lane and into the opposite guardrail. A helpless Don Gay was trapped in a fiberglass inferno, unable to pull the lever to actuate the onboard fire extinguishers. Then something happened that I have never seen before in all my years of covering drag racing. One of the fire bottles exploded, shattering the front end of the car and actually intensifying the flames. As always, the safety safari was on the scene quickly and had the blaze under control within seconds. Then, in an act of courage and heroism, Don Prudhomme, still dressed in fire suit and helmet, plunged into the fray to help free a fellow racer from what could easily be described as a life or death situation. Even though the fire had been extinguished, the metal parts of the car, including the seatbelt harness and roll cage, were still very hot. And Prudhomme's quick thinking made a big difference when seconds counted. Then it was up to NHRA paramedic Ronnie Davis to revive the still unconscious Don Gay, whose immediate problem was smoke inhalation and respiratory failure. In replay, we see that Don Gay in the near lane smoked the tires right from the green light. As he tried to pedal the car to stay in the run, there was just too much power being put to the ground, and the car veered left, filling Don's windshield with guardrail. The resulting collision knocked Gay unconscious and ripped the exhaust headers away from the engine, releasing heat and flame that ignited the fiberglass body. It didn't take long for the flames to begin to burn uncontrollably. And with Don Gay helpless to trigger the fire extinguishers, matters could only get worse. And get worse they did. Flames lapped at his face and body. Even though he wore full fire protection, temperatures inside his fire suit would soon rise to a point where the sweat on his skin would literally boil. And smoke would begin to penetrate the breather mask in his helmet. Then, with the car finally rolling to a stop, one of the still pressurized onboard fire bottles could no longer take the heat and burst with a force that ripped the fiberglass body to shreds. And the body, through all of this, lost its integrity completely. It could not be lifted up as you normally would. It had to be ripped off the car. Prudhomme, having experienced situations like this, knew instinctively what had to be done and did it.
Don, other than being on fire yourself, there's nothing more frightening than seeing a fellow competitor having that particular problem. You were the first one there.
Well, especially with Donnie Gay. You know, he's a young kid and he just started doing this business, and I know what it's like, you know, and you just got to try and keep your cool. And when we got to him, he was completely out, and I've been in several of these myself, as you know, and you know, he just needed to take it easy, you know. With NHRA and their safety safari and everybody here, they just do a great job. I mean, if it wasn't for them, you know, to bring him back around, because he was completely out, I don't know if he'd have made it.
Well, I'm sure they thank you for your help.
Well, anything we could do, especially a kid like that.
And Don Prudhomme would be quick to tell you that any funny car driver dressed for the occasion as he was would not have hesitated to jump in to the fire. Stationed just a few yards away from the flaming wreckage was the Flight for Life helicopter out of St. Anthony's Hospital. Don Gay Jr. was then choppered to the facility in downtown Denver. And what had been one of the strongest funny cars in drag racing was turned into an ashen heap.
We are very happy to report that as of this morning, Don Gay Jr. has been declared out of danger and is expected to make a full recovery. Now, anytime the pro racers come to Denver, the name of the game is to beat the mountain. And here's Gary Gerald with some of the ways they do that.
Well, Steve, when you come drag racing in Denver, there's one thing that's on the mind of every crew chief and every driver here, and that's air, or perhaps more appropriately, thin air, the lack of it. Even our old friend Bear here that you met a few weeks ago on the show from Montreal, he's the mascot of Top Fuel driver Dennis Forcell. Not quite as frisky as normal because of the altitude and the thin air. Denver, of course, is known as the mile-high city. But when you go to the racetrack, you're actually outside the city, and you're closer to 6,000 feet elevation. And that means you've got some very special problems that occur only once a season on the NHRA Tour. Nearly all of the crew chiefs end up building a special power plant because they've got to get as much compression as possible. Special component parts, rods, pistons, head gaskets, all go into the manufacture of this Denver racing engine. There are other things that they also do. They'll spin as much air as they possibly can into this blower. They'll also tweak these magnetos over here, trying to get more lead as they'll change or advance it maybe as much as 10 degrees. They'll also adjust these fuel pump drives down here, trying to reduce the volume of fuel that goes into the engine. That combination, along with more nitro, leans things down. They're looking for that very difficult to achieve balance that works at 6,000 feet. What does it translate to on the racetrack? Well, you can figure that top speeds are going to be down anywhere from 10 to maybe as much as 15 miles per hour, and you may be about 1/10 of a second slower in a quarter-mile run than you would normally be. Steve?
Thank you, Gary. Keep that up, and you're liable to get hired on as a crew chief yourself. Now, let's go to three-time Top Fuel champ Big Daddy Don Garlits to find out what happened earlier today. Don?
Steve, as we head into the second round, Bob Glidden continues to dominate pro stock. Kenny Bernstein and his crew and their funny car, they set a new track record qualifying, 5:53, and they continue to be the force to be reckoned with. Now, the drama is coming out of Top Fuel, and it's Dick LaHaye, the challenger for the points. He blew up both his engines that he had specially prepared for this high-altitude racing. He has installed an engine that is designed for sea level. That's not what you need up here at 5,000 feet. He's getting ready to race Daryl Gwynn. Gwynn has lane choice. Another problem. They're getting ready to race right now. Let's see what happens.
And Don LaHaye might not have made that engine change had it not been for a lot of help from Ron Kobler and the Shirley Muldowney crew. Shirley had been eliminated in round number 1. They had time on their hands and were happy to volunteer.
I imagine Daryl Gwynn's feeling quite confident right now. He knows what has happened in the LaHaye camp, and he probably figures he's going to win easily.
But I doubt he'd make any changes to his combination.
Oh, no, he wouldn't change because he's thinking of lane choice in the next round.
All right, let's watch Dick LaHaye. Remember, this is a new untried power plant. Not only untried, they had hoped to never unload it out of the trailer here because it was built for sea-level competition.
Whoa, look at that fire, Steve. Fire come out of that header. Something has backfired on that engine.
LaHaye has now pulled to the stop at the end of the burnout. The motor sounds very erratic. LaHaye may be out of this thing.
Yeah, he has heard the pop. I guess he figures it's got a rod out or something. Very professional, has pulled over to the side to keep from oiling the drag strip.
But there's no oil coming out of it.
And the engine is still running.
Well, there goes Tom Cattleman, one of the members of the LaHaye crew, starting line. He's backing up. This isn't over yet, Gary.
Well, amazingly, he is rolling back into position. And as we take another look, Don Garlits, what do you think may have happened?
Well, it looks like the engine shoots a lot of fuel out, no load on it. The fuel explodes in midair outside of the engine. No damage to the engine, just a lot of concussion in the immediate area of the starting line.
Boy, that had to have really scared Dick LaHaye. I mean, he thought he was done for.
Well, yeah, you know, if you're standing outside and you feel, imagine how the concussion must have been in the car.
This man might have felt it. Daryl Gwynn, Miami, Florida, winner of 6 races last year, only 1 so far this year. His crew chief for 1989 is Ken Binney.
He goes against LaHaye, who comes in fresh from a victory on the Summer Nationals. He's also still battling that broken rib. He drives a car prepared by his crew chief daughter, Kim. We mentioned they've had engine problems. Steve Evans was in the pits a bit earlier.
For the Mile High Nationals, Dick and Kim LaHaye prepared two what the racers call mountain motors, much higher compression to make up for the thin air. Well, in qualifying, they broke one of those mountain motors, and then tragically, in round one earlier today, they broke a lifter in the second mountain motor. Now, the only thing they have left to put in the dragster, in fact, it's already in, is a sea-level combination. Let me show you the difference. It is considerable. Closest to the camera here, that is a high compression mountain motored piston, and you can see as compared to a sea-level 6-to-1 piston, the 8.6-to-1 piston comes up much higher in the combustion chamber. That means more air in there, compressed tighter, that means more power. So Dick LaHaye goes to the starting line with a serious handicap.
And we're about to find out whether or not he can turn that handicap into a victory as he goes against Darrell Gwynn. Round two, top fuel. We're taking a look at LaHaye on the near side. Gwynn is on the far side.
And I guarantee you, Gary, that Dick LaHaye has done everything to that car you talked about on your open. More nitro, more lead, and more blower boost, Don Garland.
It's called 10, 10, and 10. 10 up on the lead, 10 up on the blower, and it looks like it's working. Look at LaHaye go.
And with all his problems, LaHaye still had the whole shot and the victory at 5:35, 2:44. Don Garland is on the starting line.
Boy, you had us a little worried there, Kim.
Yeah, well, we were a little worried ourselves. We had to put the motor in it that we usually run at sea level, and because we were running out of parts, so it worked pretty good.
What was that pop on that burnout?
Maybe it's just a little lean or rich or something there. We'll have to check into that, Don.
Okay.
So quite an adventure for LaHaye, but he advances to the semifinal round. In the pit area, Kenny Bernstein's crew getting ready for a confrontation against Mike Dunn coming up, along with more Top Fuel action and a word from Dick LaHaye. NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals outside of Denver at the newly refurbished Bandimere Speedway. I'm Gary Gerald with Don Garland and Steve Evans, who's with Dick LaHaye.
What was the deal on the starting line? You pulled over to the side like you were going to throw in the towel for a second.
Well, I was going to, because when you have all the fuel turned on, when I started to stop, it felt like it wasn't running on only about 4 cylinders, and I thought that we'd broke the thing. So I just pulled it over to the side, pulled the fuel shutoff back, and made it run on all the cylinders, and I realized it was okay, and I decided I better go race him.
One last question. How do you feel?
I feel great. A little stiff here and there, but I'm okay.
You wearing a brace under the uniform shirt?
Very much so, yes.
Dick LaHaye, what a great job. Kim LaHaye gets some credit for this one, I'll tell you right now.
And again, the brace refers to the broken rib that was re-injured in the last event at the Summer Nationals outside of Englishtown, New Jersey. Ready now for a second-round matchup between Gary Ormsby, the season points leader in Top Fuel, against veteran Eddie Hill. Burnouts complete. Ormsby working from the far lane has lane choice.
Eddie Hill is the quickest and fastest drag racer in the world at 4.93 seconds, 291 miles per hour. And a lot of that power comes from this bearded gentleman, the crew chief Buzzy Carter. Now, Gary Ormsby knows that Eddie Hill, with those numbers, can fire a shot at you anytime. Maybe not every time, but it only takes once, Don Garland. Lee Beard, the crew chief, knows that. He's a man that goes for consistency.
Yeah, they try to conserve their parts and go the whole distance. But a guy coming along will take a shot at him, and he'll give it everything he's got, and Hill is subject to doing just that right now.
Now, Gary Ormsby, Don Garland, is staging very shallow the conventional way. Eddie Hill has moved way forward in the beam.
He better be careful, those small wheels. He's subject to a red light.
Even though Eddie Hill overstaged and got a bit of a hole shot, it is Ormsby running away from the Texan. 5:27, 270 miles per hour. The second time Ormsby has topped 270. Don Garland is with Lee Beard.
Nice and steady, Lee.
We come in here with a pretty good game plan, and everything seems to be going real well for us. There is a little extra pressure on me. This is kind of my hometown. I grew up in this area. My family's here watching for me, so it feels great to put in a good show in front of them.
Yeah, I saw your dad earlier.
Thank you, Don.
So Gary Ormsby wins one in impressive style over Eddie Hill. He advances to the semifinal round, and we get set for our next pair. It'll be Dennis Forcell on the near lane going against Joe Amato. Amato has lane choice.
And Amato is the defending Winston Top Fuel champion. And Don Garland, you more than anybody else know how difficult it is to defend that Top Fuel title once you get it.
Oh, it's really tough because the guys, they come at you with a vengeance. They don't want you to win it 2 years in a row.
Well, Amato currently 4 in points. He'd like to do what you did, Big, in 85-86. Steve?
But when you see a driver like Eddie Hill intentionally deep stage, even with the little front wheels, Gary Ormsby, you know they're doing everything they can to leave with this car. They're a little bit afraid of it.
Well, it's kind of worked in our advantage a little bit so far this season. We just hope it continues that way.
Would you like a 527? That's what you got, like it or not.
Yeah, we felt that's about, we wanted to duplicate what we did last time, and that's pretty close to what it ran the last run.
Great job.
Thank you, Steve.
So what has been a great season for Gary Ormsby continues on a positive note. Tim Richards, crew chief for Joe Amato, backing his machine now into the proper spot after the burnout as he gets ready for his run against Porcel.
Joe Amato loves this mountain. He won the last Mile High Nationals here at Bandimere, along with his crew chief, Tim Richards, who has come up with some interesting twists the last couple of races. They'll be meeting a man from Minneapolis, Dennis Porcel. More importantly, though, his crew chief, Larry Frazier, much like Lee Beard, grew up and began racing right here at Bandimere Speedway. They know the altitude. Don, why has Joe Amato gone back to last year's car?
Well, Tim Richards told me that they wanted the shorter car that didn't load the rear tires quite as much because they don't have the horsepower up on this mountain, and that allows the car to work better and frees that engine up.
Dennis Porcel, Joe Amato, they leave right together. Porcel a little out of the groove. Joe Amato powers through with a brilliant 528, 264 miles per hour to Dennis Porcel's losing 541. Let's go to Don Garlitz and meet the winning crew chief.
Well, 28, you happy with that?
Oh, yeah, we're plenty happy with that. That's our tune-up run for the next round, really. We figured the third round would be like, hey, that's a tough run any day.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Well, obviously happy Tim Richards going down to congratulate Joe Amato as we get set for our next second round pairing. Laurie Johns going against the veteran from Texas, Gene Snow. And that's Johns, the young Texan herself, with a burnout.
Laurie Johns, who's been running well, has got her hands full this time. Gene Snow is running strong this weekend.
And Snow has the lane choice. Meanwhile, at the far end, Steve now is alongside Joe Amato.
You know, my vantage point down here is looking straight up the racetrack. The cars look like they go very straight here.
Well, they do as long as you stay in the groove. When you get out in the middle, sometimes you get off that pad, there's a little bounce there. If it starts the car moving around, it'll drive out of the pad, but it was pretty straight.
With the altitude tempering the horsepower, does that make it maybe a bit easier to drive?
Well, you used to driving the cars at 5.0, and we're up here going 5.20s and 30s, so it's like a Sunday ride going to church.
Joe Amato, semi-final bound.
Having fun now.
And Amato makes it sound oh so easy. He joins Ormsby and LaHaye already in the semifinals. Gene Snow, top qualifier for the first time this year in Top Fuel with a 520, has the lane choice. He is back now into position as he gets set for this run against Laurie Johns, who's been one of the surprises of this Top Fuel NHRA season.
And Gene's performance continued in the first round earlier when he pounded Texan Frank Cook with a 527. Chris Eckert is the crew chief for Gene Snow. Now, for Laurie Johns, if she should win here, she may have to give some of that credit, a bit of it, to Gene Snow himself, because her crew chief was formerly employed by the Snowman and picked up a lot of technology while he was on the job.
Pretty impressive numbers when you consider the altitude. 5:28 qualifying time for Johns to Snow's 5:20.
And Laurie Johns continues her deep stage technique, Don.
But that's okay. She's got the large diameter wheels.
That's right. She has more rollout out of the beam. Gene Snow overpowers the far lane. Tried to get back into it again, blazed the tires. Laurie Johns' crew hooping and hollering, and well, they should. A 535, 258 miles per hour sends them to the semifinal round. Don Garlitz is at the starting line with Larry Meyer.
Well, semifinal.
Not bad, huh? We dropped a cylinder and broke an intake rocker on that first round. That's why it fell off to 51. We just hopped up a little bit, but it looked like it dropped that cylinder down the other end again, didn't it?
It looked like it was shooting some fuel out.
Yeah, we'll have to hop her up some more, I guess.
Satisfaction well deserved for Larry Meyer and the crew as Laurie Johns once again proves that she is definitely a top fuel factor.
We can see Gene Snow take a definite starting line advantage, but that 520 horsepower up on this mountain proved a little bit too much for that far lane. And Gene's hope for a win here at the Mile High goes up in smoke.
So let's check the pairings now for the Top Fuel semifinal round. We've got Ormsby against Johns. Ormsby has lane choice by the quicker ET. The second pair, Amato and LaHaye, and it'll be Joe Amato with a lane choice. Laurie Johns now with Steve Evans.
Laurie Johns, for the third time this season, shakes that blonde hair, headed for the semifinal round of 5:35, though.
It's almost starting to be like a dream come true, isn't it? Yeah.
Again, yeah.
I never would have thought it. Not the snowman. I really thought he had it down this weekend. But if I don't get a chance, Steve, I want to say get well to Don Gay Jr. because I went and saw him last night, and he had a real bad crash out here, as you know, and he's going to be all right, but I hope you come back, Donnie.
We all share those sentiments. Now you've got to find some more power. You will not have lane choice against Gary Ormsby.
No, you know, every time I get to the semis, this man comes up and beats me. Gary Ormsby, it's like a big mark on my forehead. I wish I could race somebody else in the semis, but they're all tough. So we'll see how we do.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And if Lori Johns can get by Gary Ormsby, she would be in the finals for the first time in her NHRA career. In the pit area, Mike Dunn's crew, led by crew chief Gary Slusser, getting ready to face Kenny Bernstein. Funny car competition coming up. Just outside of Denver at Morrison, Colorado for the NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals. We're at a racetrack that's as much a story as the event itself. Steve Evans tells us why.
NHRA drag racing fans returning to Denver for the first time since the 1987 Mile High Nationals just can't believe their eyes when they see the all-new Bandimere Speedway. Back then, the Mile High Nationals featured a great show with Amato, Bernstein, and Glidden winning the professional categories. But as the fans left the track that summer day, it appeared that the popular event would never return. The reason? Colorado Highway C-470 had been approved for construction and was going to take a big bite out of Bandimere Speedway. It was a source of more than a little concern to owner John Bandimere. The 1988 NHRA race season was announced, and there was no Mile High Nationals on the schedule. The sports insiders doubted the championship drag racing would ever return to Denver. In fact, just about everyone figured that Denver drag racing was gone forever. They didn't bother to ask John Bandimere. So, as 1989 began, so did the construction of the all-new Bandimere Speedway. But the task at hand was not going to be an easy one. John had only 7 months to complete the construction, and half of those were during the bitter Colorado winter. It's a real gamble to work through that season. And in February, Mother Nature prevailed as an angry windstorm tore across Denver and ripped up 16 sections of new grandstand seating. Even with that latest setback, construction continued, and remarkably, the new Bandimere Speedway began taking shape. And what a job they've done. The all-new facility now has seating for more than 23,000 spectators. There's a brand-new 4-story state-of-the-art timing tower with 18 VIP suites. The track has been repaved and new cement guardrails added. Underground, more than 70,000 feet of wiring was laid to accommodate the all-new lighting and electronic needs of a modern racing facility. And now, with the completion of Colorado C-470, the track offers easy access for all race fans. And John, I know that this facility is a personal triumph for you and your family. You have literally invested your lives here, not to mention, what, $3.5 million. For race fans everywhere, thank you and good luck.
Well, thanks to you, Steve. We look forward with confidence to keep the NHRA Mile High Nationals in Denver right on through the 1990s and beyond.
Go get them.
Thanks.
An amazing renovation project now complete as we get ready for funny car competition round number 2. Bruce Larson will be going against Jim White, and what a year Bruce Larson is having as the season points leader, but his lead has been shrinking against the on-rushing defending champion Kenny Bernstein.
And it shrunk even more in qualifying. Bernstein qualified low, which was worth a bonus 50 points. He is now just a very few points behind Larson.
Yes, and it's getting tougher and tougher, and that puts a lot of strain on the crew and the driver, Steve, because they must stay alive a round at a time.
You know, normally, if you got Jim White, the way that car has been running, Roland Leon's Hawaiian car, you'd say, boy, this is a good draw. But they have found some of the gremlins in that car. Plus, Bruce Larson fell off over 2/10 from his qualifying number, defeating Scott Coletta in round number 1, mainly because the car was all over the racetrack, and I'm sure that concerns his crew chief, Maynard Yanks. You need those cars to go straight. And go straight is something that Jim White almost always does, a fine driver out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, who finally today has to have a little confidence, as does his crew chief, Bob Kreitz. Qualified number 6 at a 5.68, their best effort all season long. Well, the biggest fan for the man in that car will be back in the staging lanes yet to race in this round, Kenny Bernstein. He's saying, go Jim White, beat Larson.
Yeah, Kenny's hoping that Roland is giving the correct hand signals to White so he knows how to leave the starting line.
The points lead could change in this very round. Oh, and what a driving job by Jim White. White with a tremendous hole shot, even though he's weaving around. Bruce Larson narrowly escapes defeat with a 565 to a losing 5.78. 245 miles per hour for the winner. Don Garland.
Well, every time you win, you're still ahead.
Well, it's this point race is giving me gray hair. Every round is really important. He's running pretty good. We're trying to get a little consistency going here. I got to give my driver credit for the first round. He kept us in it because he almost clubbed the wall. He almost crossed the center line. We're just round by round.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, that was a terrific drag race, but Maynard Yinks knows that it was only by the slimmest of margins that his team is still in the hunt here in the Mile High Nationals. Let's take another look.
Obviously, the instructions that Roland gave Jim White on the starting line worked because he is out in front of Larson by miles, but it doesn't last for long. You can see that third stage of the clutch come in on Larson's car. A little blue smoke off of the tires, and that car starts to charge, and charge it does, just by a little bit, but it's enough to win the race.
Nice recovery by Larson, who now stands with Steve Evans.
Bruce Larson, that was quite a drag race till about 1,000 feet or so.
Yeah, we just started to lose traction, and then I got a little worried. I thought I was going to get past. Car finally straightened out when I got my leg back in it.
Indeed it does, but in this altitude, you don't have the downforce on the car you have in heavier air.
We've been blaming the track. 2 years ago when we were here, we said the track was junk. Now they repaved the track. The track's still junk. Well, it isn't really the track. It's just like you said. We don't have the aerodynamic downforce that we do at sea level.
Headed with the semis.
Thanks.
So from Bruce Larson, another bit of insight as to why it's so tough here on the Mile High Nationals outside of Denver. Getting ready for our next pair, John Force goes against Mark Oswald, a pair of drivers who've encountered some tough times, have not enjoyed the success that they're used to in funny car competition, as we get a chance to go on board with John Force.
This is the first time that anyone has installed an onboard video camera in a funny car. They're the most violent machines in all of motorsports, and that equipment is going to take a beating, as does driver John Force as he performs the thundering burnout. And here is Mark Oswald to answer Force's tire heating maneuver with one of his own. Who would have ever believed that after 9 races in the books that Mark Oswald, the big red car based in Houma, Louisiana, would not have been in the winner's circle? Well, Leonard Hughes, he's as frustrated as anybody, wondering why, but they qualified brilliantly at 5:59. Now, John Force, really the same story. Force, who had a terrific season in '88, including a Winston finals victory. He and his crew chief, Austin Coyle, have just not been able to come up with that little something that makes it happen.
It's a very elusive combination, and Austin Coyle has really been putting in the overtime, but John Force says it just hasn't been working.
So it's Mark Oswald with a Ford Probe, John Force in an Oldsmobile-bodied car.
There we see John Force push the fuel lever down to enrich in the motor as he gets ready to stage the car.
Now he held the brake. You saw that. He let go of the brake. The run is underway. About 4.5 G's on John Force, but not enough acceleration to top Mark Oswald. Oswald goes to the semifinals at 564, 249 miles per hour to a close, but losing 5.70. Let's go to Don with the crew chief for Mark Oswald. Back at the starting line, Leonard Hughes.
Slowed down just a little bit, but that first round, is that the heat out here?
No, we actually softened it up a little bit. First round, it almost got loose. At 2 places, it was shaking, spinning the tires, and so we backed it up just a taste.
Smart move.
Thank you.
Probably won't be backing it up much more as they'll start thinking about a semifinal round coming up. Meanwhile, Dick LaHaye's crew also thinking about the semifinals. He'll be facing Joe Amato in Top Fuel. More from Denver.
There is no more spectacular funny car in all of NHRA Championship drag racing than the machine prepared by Joe Paisano and driven by Mike Dunn. Now watch what happens. That's called a dry burnout, and Don Garland, you only make that if you've got a transmission in the car. They are not running a high gear, staying with the tranny.
Well, they know that up on this mountain, it's hard to make power, and the transmission is definitely a crutch if you don't have enough power.
And the tables are turned a bit here, huh? Bruce Larson, now a little bit of the pressure off. He has been victorious in the second round. You can see the expression on Dale Armstrong's face. He knows that to keep pace, they have got to win here in round number 2 if Kenny Bernstein is to win an unprecedented 5th NHRA Winston Funny Car title.
And there's the face of the man that has wrenched him to all 4 previous championships. Now they're up against Mike Dunn. He and Joe Paisano, crew chief Gary Slusher, they don't run all of the NHRA championships. But this year they have won 2 events. Only Bernstein and Larson can match that. And with lane choice going for Mike, Bruce Larson could be his new best friend if he puts away Bernstein.
And Mike Dunn is one of the best drivers in drag racing, in my opinion. He does a lot of those functions in that car himself.
And there is no onboard computer on the Paisano machine. They do it the old-fashioned way. All right, Mike Dunn far lane, Kenny Bernstein near lane. It is Dunn away first. Mike Dunn a bit of a hole shot. The big red car nips him right at the wire. Dale Armstrong, oh, a sigh of relief from him. 562 to a 565, almost a dead heat. Let's go to Don.
562, slight improvement from that first round.
Yeah, a little bit, Don. We got something crazy going on. We haven't put our finger on the problem yet. It seems to be getting leaner and leaner. I flowed the fuel pumps last time. We still haven't really found it. Now they're on the start line. I just saw we did have a fuel leak sitting there idling, so maybe that's a clue.
Well, we hope you find it.
A somewhat puzzled crew chief Dale Armstrong going down to chat with Kenny Bernstein after a terrific funny car drag race. Let's take another look.
Beautiful start by Mike Dunn. You can see the slight starting line advantage, and it looks like he might just be going to put Kenny away. But as the cars continue down the race course, we see that smoke come off the rear tires. The Larson deal, no aerodynamic downforce, and Bernstein gains an advantage.
By the slimmest of margins, Kenny Bernstein goes to the semifinals. It was that close.
A lot of drivers are telling us they can feel the car spinning the tires almost all the way down the racetrack.
Pretty much so, especially off the concrete, Steve. It'll just keep on spinning, but you don't worry about it unless that smoke starts coming up on the inside and you can see it out of the corner of your eyes. Then you got to worry.
I have a feeling that 562 is exactly what Dale Armstrong hoped this car would run.
Hope it would happen that way, especially and not hurt it so bad. That's the main thing. Now you got something to work with.
No smoke at all.
So Bernstein keeps the pressure squarely on season points leader Bruce Larson. Goes over to congratulate Dunn after just a terrific side-by-side funny car run. Our next pair in the second round will feature Ed McCullough going against Tom Hoover. The burnouts are complete. Hoover has the lane choice. We see McCullough backing into position in the near lane.
Now, Ed McClelland knows that with 9 races in the books, this being the 10th, he has got to start winning some events. There's only 9 more to go after this. If he's to have a high finish in the point standings, maybe not be the Winston champ, but pick up 2nd or 3rd place bonus money. There's over $1 million in that fund.
Tom Hoover out of Maple Grove, Minnesota, comes in 6th in NHRA funny car points. He pilots a Pontiac Trans Am. His crew chief, well, his father, now in his mid-80s, still very active in building the race motors. McCullough was in the finals in the last event, but he lost to Bernstein in the Summer Nationals. Bernie Federley calls the shots for this team that's been knocking on the door of late.
Ed McCullough in round number 1 earlier today defeated Don the Snake Prudhomme, and it was Tom Hoover besting Californian Gary Ritter. So with the first round behind them, here we go. Who's going to the semis? Will it be Tom Hoover in the far lane? Will it be Ed McCullough in the near lane? They inch into those infrared beams. No overstaging here. And it's a good start by both drivers. McCullough with a bit of an edge off the line, and suddenly Hoover has big-time engine problems. You can see the smoke out of the pipe. McCullough goes to the semis with a 572, 250-mile-per-hour besting of Tom Hoover. Let's go to Don Garlitz with Bernie Federley, the crew chief.
Well, not a real strong ET, but you're still there.
Yeah, we were trying to sneak up on a little bit. We didn't want to give it away by smoking the tires, so we just kind of see what we have to do this time. We gave away lane choice, but I think we'll be all right. Thanks.
So some guarded optimism from Bernie Federley, despite the fact they gave away lane choice, which thus far hasn't been that important. First pairing, Larson against McCullough. Larson with lane choice by virtue of the quicker ET in the previous round. Second pair, Bernstein against Oswald. Bernstein gets the lane choice. Steve is now with Ed McCullough.
Well, Ed McCullough will be one of the final 4 in the funny car category. And Ace, tell us about the run. It was noticeably smoking the tires right off the mark.
Well, I mean, the thing launched all right. I mean, I think we got off the pad okay, but it went out there. You know, this is a brand new racetrack. Every new racetrack we go to, you know, the asphalt's still green. Next year it'll be outstanding. This year it's very touchy. It's smoke on the tires, and you go out there and you brake it as much as you can and try to stay ahead of the guy.
Indeed.
Meanwhile, on the top fuel pits, Gary Ormsby gets
the NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals just outside of Denver, Colorado.
I'm Steve Evans along with Gary Gerald, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and it's time for Pro Stock. And Don, these drivers and crews have the hardest time wrestling with this atmosphere.
They don't have superchargers bolted on these engines or nitromethane to increase the horsepower. They have to do it with technology in the engine and savvy in tuning.
But it's the same for everybody. We're all at about 6,000 feet here. You're looking at Kenny Delco, an up-and-coming star in the Pro Stock category. Kenny hails from Center Reach, New York. He is driving a Pontiac Trans Am. He'll be up against yet another Pontiac Trans Am, the yellow car driven by Jerry Ekman from California. Jerry Ekman is a master of car control. He's always on time at the starting line, maybe not real early, but he's never late either. And he can steer one of these cars straighter than just about anybody, Don, and that's a secret to a quick elapsed time.
That's right, Steve. And also, these cars run very much the same as they do at sea level. The strong cars are strong and the weak cars are weak. It's up to the drivers to get a good advantage at the starting line.
And it's Ekman away first. Ekman ahead of Delco in the near lane. And he stretches it out to a 793 at 172 miles per hour to Kenny Delco's 8.08, 172 miles per hour also.
So that'll bring us now to our second pair in the second round of Pro Stock competition. We're watching Darrell Alderman heat the tires in his burnout from the far lane. He'll be going against Bruce Allen, a three-time winner this season, currently number 2 in points.
Darrell Alderman is seated in the only competitive Dodge in all of Pro Stock racing, having won the Gator Nationals earlier this year. That's a Chevrolet Beretta for Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen from Arlington, Texas, originally from Michigan. He moved down there to join the Ruhr and Morrison team. Darrell Alderman, another transplant. His entry may say Fairfield, Illinois. Just talk to the boy. He's from the South, I guarantee you.
Alderman knocked off Don Kuntz in round number 1, but he may have his hands full in this one now against Allen, who's had great success this season.
And it's Alderman who carries the big reputation off the starting line. That's what took him to the winner's circle earlier this year down in Gainesville, Florida. Chevrolet and Dodge, and it is Bruce Allen. 4 100s in the bank off the starting line. The Dodge comes on, but not hard enough. David Rear says, okay, that's one more. Bruce Allen wins at 787 to a losing and quicker 785. Speed for both men, 175 miles per hour.
Well, once again, we're seeing terrific side-by-side competition here in Denver. Don Garlitz, this is a fine Pro Stock run.
Yeah, Bruce Allen takes a definite starting line advantage, and he needed it because that Dodge came on in the other lane, but it was too late. And even though the Dodge turned a 2/100th of an 18 better, the Rear and Morrison engine maintained that lead that Bruce Allen took at the starting line, and he beat him by just ever so slightly an edge.
One of those rare instances when the quicker ET ends up on the trailer. The driver of that winning Beretta is with Steve Evans.
Yeah, you've told us before that a smooth ride is a quick ride in a Pro Stocker. Is it smooth here?
This is a pretty smooth track. We didn't really make a good run that time, as good as we could, but hey, we got down here first. That's all that's important.
That's a good philosophy in any kind of racing.
So Bruce Allen will look ahead to a semifinal round now, and congratulations from the defeated Darrell Alderman as we get set for our next pair. It's Larry Morgan and the Olds Cutlass going against Ricky Smith, who'll be piloting a Pontiac Trans Am. Morgan, completing the burnout, has lane choice. He's elected to go from the far lane.
Now, these are gasoline-burning, carbureted 500 cubic inch motors. That's the biggest engine you can have. The cars weigh 2,350 pounds. That's the lightest they can possibly be. And Ricky Smith, well, he enjoyed round number 1 because he defeated with a whole shot Butch Leal, the master of that game. Smith with the Trans Am. Larry Morgan is in the Bob Pinella-owned Oldsmobile-bodied Pro Stock car. The driver from Ohio, the car owner from Northern California. Been in this business a long, long time, Bob Pinella has.
The cars don't want to stage. What the deal is, the guy that stages last can lead with the engine the highest, and of course that's real important up here with horsepower at a premium.
Well, Ricky Smith has another hole shot going for him.
Oh, that was about as close as it comes, and there's the reaction from a delighted crew as Ricky Smith with a 795 just noses out Larry Morgan.
And listen to Morgan's lap time, 784. Ooh, he won't want that time slip.
We're inside with Bob Glidden now as he prepares for a second-round matchup with Joe Lapone Jr. Glidden, the master of this division, 9 times the Winston champion, the #1 qualifier here at the Mile High Nationals.
And Joe LaPone, he's a guy, well, kind of like Ricky Smith. If he feels maybe he's a little down on performance compared to his competitor, he might, well, mess around a little bit on the starting line, that Pennsylvania lad. Now, Bob Glidden drives a Ford Probe, right? But is it really a Ford Probe like mine?
When you're watching Pro Stock in action and you hear the announcer refer to one of these race cars as a Ford or a Chevrolet or a Dodge, rest assured that the car that you're watching is very close in size and shape to the car that might be parked in your driveway. Well, how does NHRA maintain an integrity such as this in a class so competitive as Pro Stock? Well, I'll show you. They have designed this apparatus, commonly known as the Chamber of Horrors. With this device, they can check one of these cars within a 32nd of an inch, and they have the specifications right there in that manual to tell them what the shape of this car should be, so that you don't try to take advantage of your competitor. These cars are taken through the Chamber of Horrors at Pomona each year. A seal is put in the body, tells NHRA that this car has been checked. Now, that's good for the whole year unless you make some sort of a modification to the body or brush the guardrail. If you do, it's back to the Chamber of Horrors for recertification.
Boy, they are tough when it comes to the body restrictions on these cars. Bob Glidden knows that. He always flies right through the Chamber of Horrors, no problem. Not everybody can say that.
Glidden goes against LaPone. LaPone on the near side against the top qualifier, and we ride down the strip with Bob Glidden as he goes through the gears.
And it was Bob Glidden with the advantage off the starting line. Strong driving, and a strong 784 defeats Joe LaPone's 787. And again, both drivers run 175 miles per hour. That seems to be all the mountain wants to give up today.
So we'll set the pairings now for the Pro Stock semifinal rounds. It'll be Bob Glidden going against Bruce Allen. Glidden has lane choice. The second pair will feature Jerry Ekman against Ricky Smith. Ekman has lane choice. Steve is now with LaPone and Glidden at the far end.
Well, Bob Glidden is not yet out of the car, but Joe LaPone is. You were honking your little horn, grinning like you won. You didn't win, Joe.
I know, but we made it to the second round again. We're on our way, and get beat by Bob's not that bad.
Bob's finally out of the car. What a good race. You're 84, his 87.
Nice race. Joe did a good job. You know, it's hard to say what he's going to do on the starting line each time, and he did his normal caper, and I kind of fell for it in a way, pulled in the same time with him. It was a good race, a real good race.
Indeed. See you in the semis.
So the great competition continues at Denver. Semifinals coming right up. Without question, one of the most spectacular settings you'll find anywhere on the NHRA circuits, the Mile High Nationals just outside of Denver, Colorado. And right now, Steve Evans has a special guest.
Gary, I'm with Wally Parks, and Wally is founder and chairman of the board of the National High Road Association. It has got to be thrilling for you to see the flurry of racetrack activity over the last couple of years. Houston, Dallas, Topeka, Atlanta, and now Denver with a super track.
Well, it's something that nobody ever dreamed of in advance, and I think that this one is the absolute epitome of what we've been trying to do to convert drag racing into a theater type of entertainment. This one is just unbelievable.
And it shows that the track operators have tremendous confidence in NHRA drag racing. $3.5 million here alone.
Well, they do have that, but Denver is an awfully good market. We've known that for a long time. I think this track is an impossible dream come true, because to carve something out of a mountain and make it into this kind of an arena is just absolutely more than anybody could ever hope for.
Enjoy the day.
Thank you.
There's something else new on the NHRA scene. It's a 24-hour telephone hotline that you can call 7 days a week and get all the inside information on NHRA Championship drag racing. It is 1-900-468-NHRA. Engrave it on your brain. 1-900-468-NHRA. Gary?
Time now, Steve, for Top Fuel semifinal competition, and our first pair features Joe Amato and Dick LaHaye. LaHaye in the near lane. Remember, he had problems in the earlier rounds. Amato has been strong. He comes into the competition as the number 2 qualifier.
And he is seated in a car that some other racers have called a dinosaur, an antique. Here, maybe we can see how much shorter it is than Dick LaHaye's car. LaHaye's machine is built to that maximum 300 inches. A beautiful start. A tremendous drag race.
Oh, impossible to tell from that angle who won. Had to go with the lights, and Amato ends up with a victory in nearly identical times. 5:22 for each man.
one of the most even starts I have ever seen in drag racing, but I noticed that Dick LaHaye's front end did a little porpoising action on the starting line. I imagine that he has taken a lot of weight out of the front of that car because Dick LaHaye is very weight conscious. This gives him more available horsepower to drive the car, but he might pay a price with that front end dangling out there like that. He could jump over the finish line lights because notice how close they are to the ground, and that's just exactly what he does. You can see light under the car.
With all the variables in this drag racing sport, the clutches, tire slippage, engines, one of the closest races in history, you have just won by 2 1,000ths of a second.
I didn't think I won, Steve.
You won.
Close.
You won. You both ran 5:22. You left right together. You couldn't have known.
It was so close. I had no idea.
And here comes Dick LaHaye.
Longer than mine, you know. I'm sitting back there looking at it, buddy.
Hey, we just put on a typical LaHaye Amato show.
Oh, God. I was sitting here in my car feeling sorry for myself, saying I should have got a better light. I like his car is 30 inches longer than mine. And
you got the dinosaur.
I got the dinosaur. I got this old chariot with the wheelbarrow.
Well, he's got the flathead engine, so you're even.
It's a sea-level engine, you know. Good luck.
Thank you.
I love these interviews when I don't have to say anything.
By the rules, it's a racer's responsibility to break the beam, and certainly Dick LaHaye had no problem with that. Amato, by the squeakiest of margins, advances. And we get set now for our next semifinal round. Gary Ormsby against Laurie Johns. Ormsby, the season points leader, works from the far lane.
Certainly going to be a hard act to follow that LaHaye Amato race.
Oh, I know. And Laurie John, Gary Ormsby has been beating on her like a drum all season long. Every time she gets to the semis, it looks like she's really going to make some progress in the sport. She runs up against the man from Roseville, California, and he just bumps her.
As usual, Laurie Johns is overstaged to get that extra inch down the drag strip.
But they leave right together. Gary Ormsby, far lane, defeats Laurie Johns, 5:22 to a 5:27. Laurie leads with top speed of the entire event, 271.65 miles per hour.
Well, it looks like you're tied for ET for that lane choice.
Well, I'll tell her, we were really pleased that Amato took LaHaye out. Dick's close to us in the points, so we were really kind of rooting for him. We'll race Amato for the finals here. I hope it'll turn out to be our day.
So the pairing for the final now complete. Ormsby goes against Amato, and by 2 1,000ths of a second, lane choice goes to Joe Amato. It just can't be any closer than that. Funny car action coming up in a moment. In a day of sensational racing in the Mile High Nationals, we cannot forget this dramatic run yesterday. In a qualifying run, funny car competition, Don Gay Jr. had to endure this flaming inferno and explosion that devastated his car. He had been rendered unconscious when he hit the left side wall in a side-by-side run with Don Prudhomme. But amazingly, in this late footage from the hospital, Don Gay is recovering from burns of the trachea, back, and arms, but he is expected to make a full and complete recovery.
This was Don Gay Jr.'s second serious funny car accident, one in the alcohol ranks and the one we just saw. And people were close to the family. Well, there is some doubt as to whether he would return to drag racing competition. We'll just wait and see.
Ready now for the funny car semifinal. Bruce Larson goes against Ed McClelland. The burnouts are complete. Larson, backing his entry into position, has the lane choice. He's elected to go from the near side of the track.
And remember, Larson and crew have their feet to the fire. They must win every round if they want to keep up. That's the only way they're going to stay ahead of Bernstein in these points.
And just like round number 2, Bernstein can see from back in the staging lane. And you know he's saying, come on, Ace. Just do me one little favor here, will you? Get rid of that guy from Pennsylvania. And McCullough, he doesn't need any encouragement from Bernstein to want to do that. He needs the points desperately himself.
And this is only the midpoint of the season, so this looks like it could be a battle that will endure to the bitter end.
And McCullough was off the mark first, but look at the power of Bruce Larson. Larson thunders across. One of the best performances of this event. 5.54 seconds, 249 miles per hour. McCullough fell off to a 5.91. Don's with the winning crew chief.
5.54.
Boy, we needed that in the head into this final. You know, it's going to be a dogfight. Either one of them cars we got to face are really performing well here, and I'm glad to see our performance step up a little bit.
Well, that's a fantastic run. That's just 100th off the absolute record here.
Well, we knew we had to get after a little bit to beat McCullough. He put a job on us at Englishtown. Thank you.
An appreciative crowd acknowledging the effort of Larson and the return of his teammate Joe Amato on the return road as we take another look at this match between McCullough and Larson.
McCullough makes a storybook start, and it looks like he's going to be able to handle Larson. And all of a sudden, you'll notice some fuel starts to come out of the pipes of McCullough's car. That's a sign it's dropping cylinders, and that's all Larson needed. And the power pulls right on out in front and train lets him to a beautiful 554.
And already led for the second half of the semifinals is Mark Oswald in the bright red Ford Probe, and he's up against, I don't have to tell anybody watching, Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein, the same deal. The pressure back on him again. Larson continues to earn points. 200 around.
And Oswald, a man who hasn't won uncharacteristically this year, has been in the finals twice, lost both of them to Kenny Bernstein.
A perfect start. No advantage off the line. And look at Oswald. Car owner Paul Candy says that's the one we needed. Oh my. Low elapsed time of the entire event. 5.50, 258 miles per hour.
And once again, we're seeing another terrific run here in the Mile High Nationals.
One of the most perfect starts in funny car I've seen in years. The cars came off the line tied together. But that motor designed by Leonard Hughes began to make some serious horsepower and shoved that car out in front of Bernstein. I bet he didn't know what hit him. Look at that thing go. 550 on top of this mountain. What a run.
And here was the margin of victory for Mark Oswald, just over a car length, as he now goes to the funny car finals against Bruce Larson, and Oswald will have lane choice. Oswald is now with Steve Evans.
The first one over here to congratulate Mark Oswald was Bruce Larson, and for very good reasons, you have put out Kenny Bernstein.
Yeah, it's a tight battle between all of us. I'm sure Bruce would have rather seen me win, but I'll tell you what, the probe's running good today. I feel real good about it.
You should feel good about a 5.50, the best we've seen today.
Yeah, I figured that. It felt real good. We just kind of went back to the way it was first round, and we just been tweaking the other end a little bit. It's spinning the tires, but it's getting down through there.
Lane choice?
Yeah, it might be a hard decision. I think the track got a lot better, you know, as the heat went away today.
Oh, boy, what a final this is going to be. A 50 to a 54.
And Mark Oswald in position now to get that elusive first victory of the 1989 campaign. Coming up, the Pro Stock semifinals. We'll have that action for you in just a moment.
Stock time at the NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals. That is Ricky Smith in the blue Trans Am, Jerry Ekman in the yellow Trans Am. Now, Ekman has watched Ricky Smith have his way with Butch Lill and Larry Morgan, hole-shotting both of them. So they move up to pre-stage. Nobody's moving, Don Garlett.
Well, both drivers know the advantage of staging last at 6,000 feet, so nobody wants to go in first.
Either driver wants to put his motor on high C, stage first, and then wait for the other racer to stage. So they're both just sitting there at idle. Starter Buster Couch starting to get a little fidgety himself. In fact, Buster looks over at Ekman. Hey, Buster's having a good time with this, too.
Buster has shut these Pro Stocks off earlier this year for this.
Now, Ekman has moved forward and staged. Smith still sits there.
Look, Buster's counting him out.
Buster could have thrown the light. Had Smith not moved in, Smith would have automatically got a red. Side by side after a green light start. Oh, boy. It is Jerry Ekman and the Bill Orndorff Trans Am at 792 to Ricky Smith 794. The racing just gets better and better regardless of the category.
Smith knew he had to have a starting line advantage because Ekman had run better than him by about 0.04 of a second in the previous round. And I'm surprised that he was able to do as good a job with Buster standing over there giving him the 1, 2, 3 count. But Ekman had a little bit more power down course, not much, but just enough to squeak out in front of Smith for the win.
Terrific battle between a couple of the low qualifiers. Ekman came in number 12, Smith number 14, but Ekman, by that slim margin, prevails and advances to the finals. Steve is now with the winner.
How long were you willing to wait for him to stage?
Well, I was just trying to be sportsman-like. I thought he was having trouble.
Come on.
Well, I figured I went to where I thought was the limit. You know, I saw Buster getting a little irritated, so I haven't raced Ricky before, but I know he always likes to stage last, and I thought I needed every advantage I could have.
Good run, 794.
Thank you very much, Steve. Look for you in the final.
Okay, we'll be here. We may talk again.
I hope so.
Love that wink. Ekman clearly having a great time as we get set now for our other semifinal pairing and a chance to go back inside the Ford Probe with defending champion Bob Glidden, a man who has absolutely owned this racetrack over the years.
Well, you know, you saw all those levers. Don Garlis, what would happen if you pulled the wrong one?
Well, I'll tell you, you just park out there big time. In fact, there's one of them you can pull, you go backwards.
Okay, here's Bruce Allen. Ford versus Chevrolet. Allen in the Beretta. Glidden fidgeting around, getting set in his Ford Probe. They're off. You can see through the window the Beretta of Bruce Allen. It stays there right alongside Bob Glidden. Now it drifts back almost a full car length. Glidden goes into the final round against Jerry Ekman.
A 783 for Bob Glidden, who's won here 5 times in the past, 175 miles per hour against Allen's 788. So the pairing for the Pro Stock Final, Glidden against Ekman, and by virtue of that run moments ago, Glidden gets lane choice. Gary Ormsby's crew, Lee Beard, the crew chief, hard at work, preparing now for the Top Fuel Final. It'll be Ormsby, the season points leader, against 2-time champion Joe Amato. Back outside Denver, Joe Amato's hard-working crew, readying his machine for a Top Fuel showdown in the finals against Gary Ormsby. There are many classes that compete at every NHRA event, and earlier Steve Evans looked at a very special top alcohol dragster.
Just in case you thought front-engine alcohol cars were a thing of the past, take a look at the Boggs brothers entry from Ohio. They are qualified very well in the alcohol dragster class, and they don't even have a dragster. This is really an altered roadster. Ron Boggs ran for many years in competition eliminator with a supercharged engine and a short wheelbase roadster. He finally quit, like almost everybody else, because you couldn't win enough races. He thought, let's go run with the alcohol dragsters, and he did, with the front wheels right here. You talk about a scary ride. They were competitive, but kind of all over the racetrack. So NHRA said, wait a minute, you guys want to run a roadster? Fine. Put the front wheels out here, the minimum length for an alcohol dragster, and you'll be okay through the end of 1989. Because in 1990, for safety reasons, the engines must be behind the drivers in all cars so they can indulge themselves for a few more races. Almost hate to see the old girl go. Gary, tell us how the Boggs boys did in final eliminations in the rest of the Sportsman categories, too.
Well, Boggs was able to take his unique machine all the way to the semifinals where he ran into Corey McClelland, and that proved to be the end of the line. McClelland in the near lane got the victory. Boggs was all over the racetrack, but he had a great weekend while it lasted. But it was McClelland who went on to get the victory in that division. Brad Anderson, a winner in Top Alcohol Funny Car. Steve Taylor, the competition champion at Denver. Super Stock champ, Jim Hawkins. The stock crown went to John Duesenberry. In Super Gas, it was Mike Berterer. And in Super Cup, Rich Borba.
You know, Gary, I asked Ron Boggs if in 1990 he would build an alcohol dragster. He said, nope, alcohol funny car. You can still have the motor in front.
So now we're ready for the Pro Stock Finals. Bob Glidden goes against Jerry Ekman. We've talked about Glidden's dominance here at Denver. He's won the last 3 times around. Also in the early 1980s, 5 victories on this racetrack. And in fact, he's been in the finals here 8 of the last 9 times.
And don't you know that Jerry Ekman is keyed up right now, just wound up tight in his brain, Don?
He knows he's got to get a starting line advantage. Glidden has been running super strong all day long.
Glidden trying to get comfortable, hand on that first gear lever. He'll pull that as soon as the car leaves.
Look at Ekman get away on that hole shot.
All you can see is Ekman's parachute. He's that far out in front. But at the finish line, it's Ekman looking at the Glidden parachute. The Glidden boys, Rusty and Billy, celebrate. Glidden 783 to a losing 793. What a drive by Jerry Ekman. Winning speed 175. Donna's with Etta.
Well, what do you think of that?
Oh, it's very exciting. It's been a very long day, and we've hit kind of a drought for the last 2 or 3 races, and it's good to be back on track. It's good to be back in Denver. We love it here.
Great. It's good to have you back.
Thank you, Don.
Career win number 73 for the man who has dominated Pro Stock for years.
One of the most beautiful starts I've ever seen in drag racing. Ekman cut almost a perfect light, .403.
A 4.00 is a perfect light because if you get a .399, you get a red light. So Ekman did everything he could possibly do. In fact, if he'd have cut a .40, he still wouldn't have beat Glidden because Glidden just had too much power in that Ford Probe.
And power all the way down the racetrack. We have seen it time and again all year. And here, the finish line camera shows you the final margin of victory, less than a half length. In 6 finals this year, 6 wins for Glidden, who's with Steve.
Everybody that Bob Glidden raced today took their shot, but they needed more than one to get you today, Bob. Another 783 with a 7. That's 3 elapsed times identical to the thousands.
We needed every bit of it today, Steve. And in the final, let me get Ekman in here. You know, this guy, here again, he's one of the slower cars. He did a great job today.
You hear that? He calls you one of the slower cars.
Well, didn't you notice? He went around me. What can I say? Hi, Mom.
Great race for us, especially. I know Jerry feels great. He would have loved to have won the race, but we talked about it before we actually ran, and just to be here in the final in Pro Stock Eliminator that's great for us.
You remember last year in the Winston All-Stars when he picked your pocket for $30,000, huh?
I'll never forget it, pal.
Career win number 73 being celebrated by the man in red and white, Bob Glidden, the winningest driver in the history of NHRA drag racing competition.
And Gary, down here on the starting line, Maynard Yingst is changing a main fuel jet on Larson's car at the last moment. Very unusual in my experience.
Back at Bandimere Speedway, the NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals. I'm Steve Evans, along with Gary Gerald and Big Daddy Don Garland. You're looking at Mark Oswald, who has lane choice over Bruce Larson, the funny car finals. What was that jet change all about, Big Daddy?
Well, Steve, the temperature has dropped out here this afternoon, and that means the air is heavier. So Tim Richard and Maynard Yingst put their heads together, and they decided that engine needed a little bit more fuel, so they have enriched the main fuel mixture.
Now, is that a gamble in your mind or just good race strategy?
I think it's just good race strategy. That's what the computers and all are about, to tell you what the car needs.
Now, as we watch Leonard Hughes back Oswald into position, a bit earlier, Steve Evans talked with the other half of the combination.
You can't pick up a racing journal without reading about a team breaking up. That seems to be just part of the industry. Candies and Hughes, however, have been together for 26 years. 1 year longer, Paul Candies, and you've been married. What's the secret?
Well, Leonard is contrary to popular belief, a pretty easy guy to get along with. I mean, he's a mechanical genius, and he just kind of makes his team tick. We've had numerous crews that have worked with us through the years, and he takes care of my business for me while I'm not there.
Is friendship a big part of it or not?
Oh, sure. You couldn't live that long with anybody without.
Bigger than most teams. Mark Oswald, he's been around for a long time.
Well, maybe we shouldn't spread the word that I'm such a pushover. Maybe I'm just too easy to get along with.
Good luck in the final.
Thank you.
A partnership of unique distinction in drag racing. Candies and Hughes, and it's Oswald in the near lane. Now in the funny car finals against season points leader Bruce Larson, who has a chance to stretch the advantage over the now sidelined Kenny Bernstein.
And somewhere in this racing facility is Kenny Bernstein, hoping that Mark Oswald can stop the point-earning capability of Bruce Larson. Larson, a tremendous hole shot. Larson ahead. Larson maintains the lead. Oh, Larson runs a 566 to Mark Oswald's 562. What a blow to Oswald's pride as a driver. But Don Garland is with a man who is ecstatic, crew chief Maynard Yingst.
I couldn't believe my eyes. You're over there changing a jet right at the last minute.
Well, I'll tell you what happened there. I thought Mark ran a 60. I didn't know he ran a 50. And I got after the clutch back in the pits as we were pulling out, and then Timmy come up and give me a last-minute jet change, and I think it helped. So we won anyway.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Don. Thank you.
A breathless Maynard Yingst ready now to go down and congratulate his driver as Bruce Larson wins for the 3rd time this season, and we take another look.
Watch that Larson car move. Jet change is exactly what it needed. It gave it extra fuel at the start, and he begins to pull out almost immediately in front of Oswald. And because, you know, that heavy air, if you have a lean engine, it won't run good. He needed the fuel to maintain that lead.
Well, what a season Bruce Larson is enjoying. He's out of the car now, and Steve Evans is there.
With this win, Bruce Larson has sent a message, I believe, to Kenny Bernstein in that camp that they're nobody's doormat. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
You won it with a hole shot. You ran slower, but you got there first.
Is that right? Good. This Century Tax and Gauges, Key Parts, Oldsmobile, Kendall Oil car just flew today. It hooked up to a track that a lot of other cars couldn't hook up to. That was partly to the credit of Tim Richards and Maynard Yanks and my whole crew. So they kind of made it easy for me.
Were you concerned at all sitting in the car when Maynard started changing jets?
Well, Tim came over and had an idea that he thought would work, and when Tim speaks, it usually works.
Absolutely. Who do you suppose that could be?
Hey.
For 3 decades, Bruce Larson has been battling in the drag racing sport. Never has he enjoyed the success that he's enjoying this season as the funny car points leader, now savoring his 3rd win of the year. Jerry Amato, meanwhile, up on the line, guiding her husband Joe Amato into position for our top fuel showdown. It'll be Amato against Gary Ormsby as Lee Beard, now having made final calculations, watches his man inch into position.
Well, we're getting ready to find out whether the Dinosaur is better up here on the mountain or the modern dragster. Both of these cars come into this round with almost identical ETs to the thousandths of a second.
So in the far lane is Joe Amato, the reigning Winston Top Fuel champ. In the near lane is the man who is trying to steal that number 1 off the side of Amato's car. A beautiful side-by-side start. Amato out-horsepowers Ormsby and wins it. 5:21 to a 5:33. It looked like maybe a hole shot for Amato. No, that's just how much harder his car left the starting line than Ormsby's. Don?
Congratulations, a new track record right on the final, right when you needed it.
Well, this is definitely a gratifying day. I mean, Ormsby is a real tough car right now. He's a tough customer, and we're very happy to beat him.
But he couldn't deal with that 21.
No, not in this run, but who knows on the next day.
Well, that's another race. We'll worry about that later.
We're real happy about this one.
Congratulations again, Tim.
So Tim Richards has a hand in a pair of victories in the Mile High Nationals. Let's go back and look at the launch now in the Top Fuel final.
We see Gary Ormsby take a slight starting line advantage, but we notice a lot of clutch dust coming out of his car. He spun his tires several times at this race, and I'm afraid he was just a little bit too conservative on his clutch because Amato made up a lot of difference in that first 600 feet of the race. And look at him stretch it out now. Even though Ormsby runs 270 miles an hour, it's not good enough.
And look at the reaction from the Amato crew. Joe is now with Steve.
You did it all right today, Jose.
He set the pace for me. You know, the captain has to pull it in. My guys did an outstanding job. All the people from TRW were here. We had to pull it off. But the guys, Timmy and the boys, did the job this weekend. You know, they come up on this high mountain, and this is a crew chief's nightmare up here.
Tell me about the race itself with Gary.
I knew I had to get a good light because, you know, he's a lever. And we staged, and I didn't want to bring the motor up too high, but we had a lot of power in it. And the thing that left, I know I left ahead of him because the car, or I was in front of him, had the wheels up, and it just boogied down that track, and it went straight as an arrow.
Right into the winner's circle.
I looked over there, and he was right there, but he was there behind.
And the points, good, huh?
Well, it's not enough, Steve, but we're still here. We're in the winner's circle, and that's all that counts.
Indeed. You know, Gary, I've never seen better racing, but more importantly, I have never seen these professional men and women have as much fun racing as they have here at Bandimere Speedway.
All right, guys.
It indeed has been a memorable weekend as we congratulate Bob Glidden, Bruce Larson, and Joe Amato. For Steve Evans and Don Garlitz, I'm Gary Gerald. So long from the Mile High Nationals.
Oh, my man, he went to the hole shot, huh?
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team. The nation's premier source of fast lane fashions, Style Auto, the champion's choice for the style of your life. And by this special offer from Diamond P.
Just incredible. You know, for 6 award-winning seasons on American Sports Cavalcade, we've shared the excitement as fearless competitors push too far. Yet, miraculously, we've watched them walk away. Diamond P has now captured all this excitement on a spectacular new home video called And They Walked Away. The mayhem of motocross, the tumbles of sprint cars, the spins of stock cars, 60 minutes of breathtaking footage. For your copy, call 1-800-453-9300 or send a check or money order to this address. Just $24.95 plus $3.50 shipping and handling. Visa and MasterCard accepted. Call 1-800-453-9300 now.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.